The neon lights of Tokyo's Shibuya district painted the rainy streets in ethereal colors, reflecting off puddles like liquid rainbow. Dr. Elena Chen ducked under the awning of her favorite coffee shop, shaking water from her umbrella. As a cultural anthropologist specializing in the impact of technology on human relationships, she'd chosen Tokyo as her research base for its unique blend of tradition and innovation. Little did she know, she wasn't the only anthropologist conducting research that evening. The strange woman sat in the corner booth, her movements too precise, her posture too perfect. She held her phone upside down, staring at it with an intensity that suggested she'd never seen one before. Alina's trained eye caught other peculiarities. The woman's clothes were current fashion, but worn in subtle wrong ways, like someone who'd learned about human clothing from pictures alone. Alina's scientific curiosity overcame her caution. She approached the woman's table, coffee in hand. "Excuse me, would you mind some company? I couldn't help but notice you seem new to the area." The woman's head snapped up with inhuman speed, her eyes reflecting the neon lights in a way that human eyes shouldn't. There was a moment of calculated consideration before she spoke, her voice carrying an accent Elena couldn't place. "Your observation is correct. I am new. Please, join me." "I'm Dr. Elena Chen," Elena said, sliding into the booth. "I'm an anthropologist studying human behavior." A flash of something. Surprise, amusement, crossed the woman's face. "What a fascinating coincidence. I am Angzera, and I too am an anthropologist, though perhaps from somewhat further away than you might guess." Elena's heart raced as she processed the implications. Years of academic training warred with the impossible reality before her. How far exactly? Angzera's perfect posture relaxed slightly. "Approximately 147 light-years. By your measurements. I represent the Galactic Research Institute of Comparative Species Studies. We've been observing Earth for some time, but this is my first direct contact assignment." Elena's hands tightened around her coffee cup. "And you chose Tokyo because—" "The same reason you did, I suspect. The fascinating intersection of technological advancement and traditional social structures. My particular focus is on human pair bonding and reproductive practices." Angzera glanced around the cafe. "Though I must admit, much of what I've observed doesn't match our previous data." Elena couldn't help but laugh. "Well, human relationships are complicated. We're not exactly a logical species when it comes to love and reproduction. That's precisely what makes you fascinating." Angzera leaned forward, her disguise shimmering slightly. "Your species has developed remarkable technology, yet you persist in linking reproduction to emotional bonds. You create devices for pleasure and connection, rather than pure biological efficiency. It's unprecedented in our studies." "Wait," Elena held up a hand. "Are you saying that your species doesn't? We have optimized reproduction for maximum genetic diversity and minimum emotional involvement." Angzera stated matter-of-factly. "It's far more efficient." "Efficient isn't always better," Elena found herself arguing. "Human emotional bonds, while messy, drive innovation in unexpected ways. Our need for connection pushes us to create new forms of communication, new ways to bridge distances." Their conversation continued late into the night, two anthropologists from vastly different worlds finding common ground in their curiosity about each other's cultures. Neither realized that their chance meeting would soon cascade into a series of events that would challenge both their species' fundamental assumptions about technology, emotion, and the very nature of progress. As they parted ways, Angzera paused. "Dr. Chen, would you be willing to assist in my research? I find your perspective illuminating." Elena smiled, already imagining the incredible papers she'd never be able to publish about this encounter. "Only if you'll help with mine. I have so many questions about your society's relationship with technology." "Agreed," Angzera said, extending her hand in a slightly too formal handshake. "Though I should warn you, my preliminary report on human reproductive technology is due soon. Some of my superiors may find your species' approaches Concerning. Elena's smile faltered slightly. Concerning? In what way? But Anxera had already turned to leave, her form flickering briefly in the neon lights before disappearing into the rainy Tokyo night, leaving Elena with an uneasy feeling about what exactly this alien anthropologist planned to report about humanity's approach to love, technology, and reproduction. 3 days after her encounter with Anxera, Elena sat in her small apartment, surrounded by holographic displays showing alien text. The translation software she'd been given struggled with certain concepts, rendering them in puzzling ways. But one thing was clear. Anxera's preliminary report to the Galactic Research Institute had caused quite a stir. Humans have developed sophisticated biotechnology for reproductive pleasure and pair bonding, yet persist in claiming they are not an advanced species, the report read. These devices, which they casually term toys, demonstrate remarkable engineering capabilities. They simulate various biological responses, suggesting an understanding of neurological manipulation far beyond their claimed technological level. Elena buried her face in her hands, fighting back inappropriate laughter. What had started as a simple cultural misunderstanding was rapidly evolving into an interstellar incident. The alien civilization had somehow interpreted Earth's adult entertainment industry as evidence of hidden biological engineering capabilities. Her communication device, a sleek alien tech that Anxera had given her for emergencies, chimed urgently. Anxera's holographic form appeared, her usual composed demeanor showing signs of stress. Dr. Chen, we have a situation. The Institute's High Council has reviewed my report. They believe humans are either deliberately hiding advanced biotechnology or are being exploited by an unknown species trafficking in biological manipulation devices. Elena pinched the bridge of her nose. Anxera, those aren't. I mean, they're just. There's more, Anxera interrupted. A delegation is being dispatched to Earth. They intend to liberate humanity from what they perceive as technological oppression and integrate Earth into the Galactic Commonwealth's reproductive efficiency program. They want to what? Elena stood up so quickly she knocked over her coffee. Anxera, you have to explain to them. I've tried. The alien anthropologist's hologram paced the room. But my superiors believe I've been compromised by prolonged exposure to human emotional patterns. They're concerned that humanity's apparent obsession with linking pleasure to reproduction is a sign of cultural manipulation by an unknown hostile force. Elena began to pace as well, her mind racing. How long do we have? The delegation will arrive in approximately 72 Earth hours. They're bringing their most advanced reproductive biotechnology experts and neural pattern specialists. Anxera's form flickered with what Elena had learned to recognize as embarrassment. They're quite impressed by what they believe to be our vibrating molecular reconstructors. Despite the gravity of the situation, Elena couldn't hold back a snort of laughter. Oh God, please tell me you didn't include pictures in your report. I included detailed technical analysis of several devices I observed in a shop in Akihabara, Anxera admitted. The Institute's engineers are particularly fascinated by something called a rabbit. Elena collapsed onto her couch, torn between hysterical laughter and genuine concern. Anxera, we need to fix this before your people try to save humanity from our own sex toys. Agreed. But how do we explain this without causing further misunderstandings? My species approaches reproduction as a purely biological function. The concept of deriving pleasure from it, let alone creating technology specifically for that purpose, is completely alien to them. Elena sat up straighter, an idea forming. Maybe that's our angle. Instead of trying to explain away the technology, we need to help them understand the human perspective on pleasure, emotion, and connection. Show them why we've developed technology to enhance these experiences rather than eliminate them. Anxera's hologram tilted its head. You believe we can convince the High Council that emotional connection is valuable. More than valuable, Elena said, warming to her theme. It's essential to human innovation. Our desire for pleasure and connection drives us to create, to improve, to explore new possibilities, even if some of those possibilities are, well, embarrassingly misinterpreted by alien anthropologists. The Council will require evidence, Ingenuity warned. Scientific proof that emotional connections contribute to technological advancement. Elena smiled, already pulling up research papers on her tablet. Then let's give them evidence. We have 3 days to prepare a presentation that will show your people why human sexuality, emotion, and technology are all intertwined, and why that's not a weakness, but one of our greatest strengths. As they began their work, Elena couldn't help but wonder what her doctoral advisors would think if they knew she was about to present a defense of human sexuality to an alien civilization. One thing was certain. This would be the most unique anthropological collaboration in human history, even if nobody on Earth could ever know about it. But as she looked through Angzera's report again, another worry nagged at her. The alien delegation wasn't just coming to study human technology. They were coming to implement their own reproductive efficiency program. And somehow, Elena suspected that humanity wouldn't take kindly to being optimized by well-meaning aliens who thought vibrators were evidence of advanced biotechnology. The alien delegation's ship materialized in Elena's apartment at exactly midnight, transforming her modest living room into something resembling a cross between a conference room and a medical laboratory. 6 tall, silvery figures emerged, their forms barely holding their humanoid disguises in their evident excitement. Fascinating, the lead delegate said, immediately scanning Elena with a device that hummed ominously. And you say you've experienced no adverse effects from prolonged exposure to these biological manipulation devices. Elena shot a desperate look at Ingenuity, who stood uncomfortably between her colleagues and her human friend. High Council members, if you'll allow Dr. Chen to present our findings. Yes, another delegate interrupted, pulling out what appeared to be a floating specimen container. But first, we've brought examples of our optimal reproduction technology. Observe. The container opened, revealing something that looked like a cross between a medical instrument and a crystal chandelier. This is our standard genetic recombination facilitator, the delegate explained proudly. It eliminates all inefficient emotional and physical responses, reducing the reproductive process to its essential biological components. No pleasure, no pain, no pair bonding required. Pure efficiency. Elena felt her face grow hot, partly from embarrassment and partly from anger. With all due respect, Council members, I believe there's been a significant misunderstanding about human technology and its purpose. Oh. The lead delegate's form shimmered with what Elena had learned was their version of condescending amusement. Do enlighten us about these remarkable devices that your species claims are merely for pleasure. Elena took a deep breath and activated the presentation she and Ingenuity had spent 3 days preparing. The room filled with holographic displays showing the history of human technological development. Human innovation is driven by emotional needs as much as practical ones, Elena began. Our desire for connection, for pleasure, for emotional fulfillment. These aren't weaknesses to be engineered away. They're the driving force behind many of our greatest achievements. She gestured to the displays, which showed the evolution of human communication technology. We developed phones not just to exchange information, but because we wanted to hear the voices of our loved ones. We created video calls because we wanted to see their faces. The internet itself evolved largely because humans have an innate need to connect, to share, to feel less alone. But these devices you use for reproduction, one delegate began, are part of the same pattern. Elena interrupted firmly. Yes, we could probably develop technology to make reproduction more efficient, but that's not what we want. Humans don't see pleasure as inefficient. We see it as essential to our well-being, our creativity, our drive to innovate. Ingenuity stepped forward, adding her own data to the presentation. Council members, my research suggests that human emotional connections have actually accelerated their technological development. Their desire to enhance pleasure and connection has led to advances in material science, neurology, and user interface design that have applications far beyond their original purpose. The delegates huddled together, their forms flickering as they communicated in their native way. Elena held her breath, watching their reactions. Finally, the lead delegate turned back to her. "Your argument is intriguing. But surely you must see that your species could be so much more efficient without these emotional entanglements." Our optimization program cooled. Could what? Elena challenged, her scientific diplomacy finally giving way to genuine frustration. Could turn us into beings who see reproduction as a clinical process, who value efficiency over joy, who think pleasure is a waste of time. The room fell silent. Even the humming devices seemed to quiet down. "Tell me," Elena continued, her voice softer but no less intense, "when was the last time your species created something new? Not just improved existing technology, but invented something completely unexpected. Because humans do it all the time. And do you know why? Because we're inefficient. Because we dream. Because we want things we don't need, and then we figure out how to make them real." She gestured to the alien's genetic recombination facilitator. "Your technology is impressive. It's perfect for its purpose. But it's also stagnant. When was the last time you changed it? Improved it? Wondered if it could do something more?" The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Sarah's eyes widened as she realized where Elena was going with this. Humans are constantly innovating, not despite our emotional connections, but because of them. We're never satisfied because we're always feeling, always wanting, always dreaming of something more. And yes, sometimes that leads us to create things that might seem frivolous or inefficient to your eyes. But it also drives us to explore, to discover, to push boundaries that more efficient species might never think to question. The lead delegate raised what passed for an eyebrow. "You're suggesting that inefficiency breeds innovation." "I'm suggesting that what you call inefficiency we call being human, and we're not interested in being optimized out of our humanity." As the delegates processed this, Elena noticed something interesting. Their perfectly maintained humanoid disguises were slipping, revealing flickers of genuine emotion underneath their efficient exterior. Perhaps they weren't as beyond emotion as they claimed to be. The lead delegate's disguise flickered again, revealing a momentary flash of iridescent skin that pulsed with colors Elena hadn't seen before. Aunt Sarah gasped softly. "Council member," she said carefully, "your emotional spectrum is showing." The delegate straightened abruptly, trying to restore their perfect composure. A mere technological glitch in the holographic interface. "No," Elena interrupted, her anthropologist's mind racing. "Those color patterns, they're not random, are they? They're emotional expressions your species tries to suppress." She turned to Aunt Sarah. "That's why you were so fascinated by human emotional displays. You recognize them, don't you?" Aunt Sarah's own disguise wavered. "It's forbidden to discuss. The great optimization occurred over 1,000 years ago. Our species chose efficiency over emotion, believing it would lead to faster technological advancement. And did it?" Elena pressed, sensing they were on the verge of something important. The youngest delegate suddenly spoke up, their form rippling with colors that seemed to indicate agitation. "Our technological progress has plateaued for the last 3 centuries. We improve existing systems, we refine efficiency, but we haven't had a truly new invention since." They stopped, apparently realizing they'd said too much. Elena moved to her kitchen, drawing confused looks from the delegates. She returned with a simple metal can and a rubber band. "Watch this," she said, stretching the rubber band between her thumb and forefinger. She plucked it, creating a twanging sound. "Primitive sound generation," one delegate observed dismissively. Elena ignored them and placed the rubber band around the can. "Now watch what happens when I adjust the tension, change the position." She demonstrated how the same simple items could create different notes, rhythms, even crude music. "This is what humans do," she explained. "We take simple things and imagine new possibilities. A rubber band isn't meant to make music. A metal can isn't meant to be an instrument. But someone somewhere Probably a child playing around, discovered that they could be. She set down her makeshift instrument. And that's just a tiny example. Look at your own technology, that holographic disguise you're wearing. Humans would never be satisfied with using it just for camouflage. We'd experiment. Could it be used for art, for entertainment, for medical visualization, for teaching? We'd try 1,000 things that might seem inefficient or illogical, and in doing so, we'd probably discover uses you never imagined. The lead delegate's colors shifted to a deep, thoughtful purple. You believe our pursuit of perfect efficiency has limited us. I think, Elena said gently, that you haven't really eliminated emotions from your species. You've just gotten very efficient at suppressing them. And maybe that suppression is costing you more than you realize. And Sarah stepped forward, her own emotional colors now visible beneath her flickering disguise. Council members, my research into human technology has revealed something remarkable. Their greatest innovations often come from what we would consider illogical connections. They create things for pleasure, for entertainment, for emotional satisfaction. And in doing so, they accidentally discover principles that lead to serious technological breakthroughs. She projected a new series of images. This medical scanning technology, originally developed for creating entertainment systems, this advanced materials science, pioneered by humans trying to make more comfortable clothing. This breakthrough in neural interface design came from studying how humans respond to music. The delegates huddled again, their colors swirling in a complex dance of emotional expression they seemed to have forgotten they possessed. When they broke apart, the lead delegate's voice carried a new tone, something almost like wonder. Dr. Chen, they said, we would like to propose an experiment. Instead of implementing our optimization program, we wish to establish a cultural exchange. We want to study how human inefficiency leads to innovation. And perhaps, their colors shifted to a hesitant blue-green. Perhaps we might remember some things our own species has forgotten. Elena smiled, picking up her can and rubber band instrument. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I know exactly where we should start. With your reproductive technology, one delegate asked hopefully. No, Elena laughed. With something even more fundamental to human nature, play. When was the last time any of you just played with something? Tried things just to see what would happen, without any goal of efficiency? The delegate's confusion was answer enough. Elena handed the can to the youngest delegate, whose colors brightened with curiosity. Go ahead, she encouraged. Make some noise. Be inefficient. See what happens. As the delegate tentatively plucked the rubber band, producing a surprising laugh at the sound, Elena caught Ningzera's eye. They shared a knowing look. This was just the beginning of a much bigger experiment, one that might change both their species in ways neither could predict. 6 months after the late-night meeting in Elena's apartment, the Tokyo Institute of Cultural Innovation opened its doors. To most humans, it appeared to be just another research facility, albeit one with unusually creative architecture. But those who knew its true nature could appreciate the irony of its location. Just a few blocks from the shop in Akihabara that had inadvertently sparked an interstellar incident, Elena stood in her new office, watching as Ningzera attempted to master the human art of making paper airplanes. The alien anthropologist's disguise was perfect now, but she deliberately let it slip occasionally, her skin showing flashes of color that matched her emotions. I still don't understand, Ningzera said, frowning at her crumpled attempt. How does creating small flying objects from processed tree matter advance our research? Elena smiled, launching her own perfectly folded plane across the room. What do you feel when you make one that flies well? Satisfaction, Ningzera admitted, her skin flickering with pleased orange tones. Though it's highly inefficient compared to our flight technology. But that's not the point, is it? Elena picked up her plane and made a small adjustment to one wing. The point is the process, the experimentation, the joy of creating something with your own hands, even something simple and seemingly useless. On the floors below them, other members of the alien delegation were engaged in similar exercises in purposeful inefficiency, as they'd taken to calling it. Some were learning to paint, others were taking music lessons, and one particularly enthusiastic researcher had become obsessed with human cooking. The results of their experiment had already exceeded everyone's expectations. The aliens' suppressed creative instincts, once given permission to re-emerge, had proved remarkably strong. More surprisingly, their technological development had begun to accelerate in unexpected ways. The High Council's latest report came in, Ingenuity said, finally achieving a respectable paper airplane flight. Her colors shifted to proud pink. The application of human creative principles to our existing technology has led to 17 major breakthroughs in the past 3 months alone. Elena nodded, remembering some of the more notable examples. An alien engineer, after attending a human dance performance, had been inspired to completely redesign their spatial transportation systems based on the principles of choreography. Another had revolutionized their neural interface technology after spending time learning to play the piano. And how are they handling the emotional aspects? She asked, knowing this had been the biggest challenge for their species. Angera's colors swirled thoughtfully. It's complicated. 1,000 years of emotional suppression can't be undone quickly. But we're learning to find a balance. Efficiency and emotion don't have to be opposing forces. They can complement each other. She gestured to her paper airplane. Like this. The principles of aerodynamics are pure physics, pure efficiency. But the joy of creating it, of watching it fly, of wanting to make it better just because you can. That's the human element we'd forgotten we needed. A soft chime interrupted them. Another group of alien researchers arriving for their first orientation. Elena gathered her teaching materials, including what had become her signature demonstration kit. A rubber band, a metal can, and a stack of paper. Ready to blow some alien minds. She grinned at Ingenuity. Actually, Ingera's colors shifted to a mischievous green. I thought we might start them with something else today. She reached into her desk and pulled out a small wrapped package. Elena read the label and burst out laughing. A Rubik's Cube. You're going to start them with that. Why not? Ingera's colors danced with amusement. It's perfect. A seemingly pointless puzzle that humans created purely for the challenge and satisfaction of solving it. No practical purpose, no efficiency. Just the pure joy of figuring something out. As they headed down to meet the new arrivals, Elena reflected on how far they'd come from that first misunderstanding about human technology. The aliens had come expecting to find a species in need of optimization, only to discover that their own civilization had optimized itself into a creative dead end. In the end, it wasn't humanity's technology that had impressed them. It was humanity's stubborn insistence on finding joy, pleasure, and play in everything they did. The aliens had rediscovered their own capacity for emotion and creativity, while humans had gained access to remarkable new technologies and scientific insights. And it had all started because an alien anthropologist had misinterpreted some adult toys in Akihabara. The new arrivals were waiting in the orientation room, their disguises perfect, but their barely contained colors betraying their excitement. Elena picked up a Rubik's Cube and held it up. Welcome to Earth, she began, where we believe that the most efficient path to innovation is sometimes the least efficient path possible. Let's begin with a puzzle that has absolutely no practical purpose, and in solving it, you might just discover something about yourselves you never knew you were missing. As she looked out at their curious faces, Elena caught Ingera's eye. They shared a knowing smile, both their species' colors shining through momentarily. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs came not from grand technological achievements, but from something as simple as remembering how to play. The future of human-alien relations might not be built on diplomatic treaties or technological exchanges, but on rubber bands, paper airplanes, and puzzle cubes, and that was exactly as it should be. After all, what better way to bridge the gap between worlds than through the universal language of joy?